Welcome back to our mid-episode break, namely 90s Minute. Every week we look back at a culturally relevant show, movie, or piece of pop culture that probably helps stoke the algorithm. This week, in honor of Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire on AMC, we're looking back at the movie adaptation, Interview with the Vampire Chronicles. Interview with the Vampire Chronicles is a 1994 gothic horror vampire film based on the 1978 Anne Rice novel Interview with the Vampire, starring Top Gun, Fight Club, the Chief Inspector from V for Vendetta, The Mask of Zorro, JD from Heathers, and the girl from Jumanji. The story is framed as Arkansas from Young Guns 2 is interviewing Bullet Train, who claims to be a vampire whose wife and child died back in 1790s New Orleans. Naturally, he turned to drinking, which leads him to getting attacked by Mission Impossible, but is offered the opportunity to become a vampire instead of dying. Mr. and Mrs. Smith accepts and is turned, but decides not to kill humans and instead feeds on animals to sustain himself until a plague comes to New Orleans and he ends up feeding on a young Mary Jane Watson, whose mother died in the plague. Cocktail turns her into a vampire to try and entice World War Z into staying and try to force them into a family dynamic. Things go alright for about 3 decades, but eventually Elizabethtown gets fed up with maturing mentally while still looking like a preteen girl, blaming it on her sire, and she then convinces Burn After Reading to leave with her. So the Virgin Unalivings doses Jerry Maguire and slits his throat before they toss him in a swamp, thinking that would do him in, but he survives and tries to stop them from leaving, and in the end, Benjamin Button sets him on fire thinking that would finally kill him. The duo then travel around Europe looking for more vampires like themselves to learn more about what they are, and while in Paris they finally find a coven. Unfortunately, the crying game can read minds and suspects that Moneyball and Marie Antoinette killed the last samurai, so Puss in Boots warns them, and What's in the Box tries to send the girl from Small Soldiers away with her new companion for their safety. But the Parisian vampires capture them all and leave the women to die in a sun chamber, while Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is trapped in a coffin. They release him from the coffin, which is a bad call because he returns to the coven and burdens him to the ground. Time moves on, but he never truly gets over Bring It On's murder as he travels the world alone. In 1988, he visits New Orleans again to find Jack Reacher still alive and feeding off rats like he once did. Top Gun Maverick expresses remorse and asks Meet Joe Black to rejoin him, but he declines. Go back to the modern day where Will Scarlet from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves asks his interviewee to turn him into a vampire, but gets refused and then attacked for not understanding how painful being a vampire is. While escaping in his car across the Golden Gate Bridge, he's attacked by risky business and then turned, but given a final choice of living forever or not. And that's Interview with the Vampire Chronicles in a Namely 90s Minute. More or less. Thank you for watching and join us next Tuesday for another Namely 90s Minute. Remember, you can always hear these a day early in full episodes of Namely 90s on all major podcasting platforms. And most of the small ones too. Please, subscribe, do all the other YouTube things, bell ringing, share like, subscribes, that sort of stuff, and we'll catch you next time.